Okay,
Okay.
it's recording.
Wow. Thank you for that little adventure, everybody, and I'm glad to see everybody
So
here.
fun.
We're going to get underway now, and welcome to everybody. Um, Steve is filling in on an emergency basis as our co-host. Uh, Gloria's partner is not doing very well, so that's why she's not here tonight. Um, anyway, so we're going to get started with CD. Uh, CD is a Kentucky native, and she follows the storytelling traditions of the South. Um, she's also has both a music CD with the music telling. She also has a collection of short stories and a poetry collection as well. So she crosses all genres. His stories have appeared in numerous literary magazines, uh, including Story Quarterly, Salamander, and right, and elsewhere. I think the Boston Literary Review. Okay, her work is represented uh, in other areas, including music. And I think that speaks for itself. And she really needs no introduction, but I did my best with that feeble effort. I give you C.D. Collins.
The questions that you're going to hear in this piece are questions that were on the Devon's literacy test that was given in Camp Devens, Massachusetts. So these are questions from that literacy test. The psychologists were extremely excited at the end of World War One, even though everybody was dying of the Spanish flu, and they were giving people this test to establish their literacy. And there's a Kentucky boy up there with his own set of answers.
We
Camp
go.
Devens, Massachusetts, 1918. My name is Earl Stacy, and I'm sitting in my skivvies up here in Camp Devens, Massachusetts, and taking your test. All around me, soldiers have took to dying. Doctors and nurses, too. Flu coming on, something pitiful. I was reared in a cabin in Storm King, Kentucky, along with too many animals and a mama whose sorrow drags the floor. We fling open our doors as soon as the Dutchman's breeches bloom, and don't shut them till frost drops the asters. We go out for soda pop Saturday morning and barbecue on an oil drum come Saturday night. We eat whatever we can catch, shoot, or falls down out of a tree. When President Wilson joined this war, honey, I was fired up, but they turned me away for flat footedness, so I went back under to the mines. War wasn't over by Christmas like they promised, so they ain't so particular about issuing a flat footed fellow his trench boots now. Epidemics bad everywhere. When I left home, there wasn't a mine a running, nor a lump of coal in the wagons. And so to your questions. Do dogs bark? Yeah, they are junkyard dogs, and they bark and they bite because they need to put the hurt back into somebody. They're loyal to those who kick them. Don't expect logic from a junkyard dog. Is coal white? Yes, coal is white. White mine owners eat up with greed, send children, landless whites, and coloreds far underground, where we suck in coal dust and look all the same by noon. They tell us there's minerals in what we breathe, but let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a man with black lungs straining to talk, fighting to breathe, trying to walk? He can no longer scream. And that's the idea. Yes, coal is extremely white. Does a baby cry? No, a baby does not cry. It has dawned on the baby that no one is coming. Can a hat speak? A hat will tell you all kinds of stories. A fedora talks money. A straw hat held in the hands is begging to borrow some. A hat can outlast you and keep on with its story once you are gone. Is stone soft? Ask Jacob asleep on his stone pillow. Get used to it. It is where you will lie. Is one more than seven? Yes. I have done the work of seven, my mother long widowed, yet in Mamma's eyes my sister was the only child. When the flu broke out violently in Storm King, my sister was took down. There was a casket box on nearly every porch in the mine camp, and hers among them. Do land and sea look just alike? Yes. Both are engorged with dead men, what the politicians call wastage. Are some books black? Well, the Bible is black, whether leather bound or covered in soot. The pages bear the fingerprints of those whose hands never wash clean. Does water run up a hill? Well, things are happening in the mountains that defy gravity. A river is liable to run up a hill to escape the spoil, but it can't flow fast enough. Do 100 cents make a dollar? Pulling a ton of coal out of the seam they claim earns a dollar, but it's only a handful of scrip to trade for lettuces in the company store. Do stones float in the air? Yes. They fly up from the charge. I'm the one who packs the hole and lights the fuse. When it blows, I go deaf and I watch them rise. Are diamonds mined in the mid-ocean? I'll tell you this. You'll never find a diamond in a coal mine, no matter how bright your oil lamp burns. I know that I have failed this test. I know how they will sort me. They'll throw me on the front line like a sandbag, on up front to the slaughter line. Out the window of the mess hall is just coming up a shower of rain, and I know exactly what will happen. They'll score me illiterate and take me anyway. I won't need much training. I'm handy with a bayonet and can pick a quill out of a tree from 100 yards. And I can see through all this clearly, straight through to the other side. They think they know me, but they do not, because the job they'll give me is the job I seek. I'll be a buck private loyal to Uncle Sam. The brass will dine on steaks and ham, the infantry a slum of beans, and I will follow orders. In the end, they will blame me for the blood on my hands. It's too late for logic. A junkyard dog will fight. It is all he knows. So when I was a child, thank you. When I was a child, my mother put me in school when I was 4, and she said that I was 7, but and they had to build a footstool so I wouldn't slide out of the chair onto the floor, and and I got an F in coloring, and she said I was 7, and the teacher realized that I was not 7, but I needed help, so she took me in, and her name was Miss Ludi, and I think we all had a Miss Ludi. This woman speaks with the mineral breath. The woman with the mineral breath knows that you still speak to forest animals, that you once tried to make fireworks with flowers and precious sand, thought you could walk off the chicken coop and fly. She will hold all of you tenderly in your little desks, will free you as often as she can, because your body craves tearing through the playground, sliding onto third base, gathering as much dust as possible, because you thrive in the dirt you're made of. She knows you need to stride to the pencil sharpener just to relieve that spring inside you. Her breath is silver from the frost of the mountain she has climbed down from to teach you letters and numbers. Which sacks have seeds you can plant? Which ones are too heavy a burden for your small bones to bear? She will teach you that it is not important to count the polished dimes in the storm you got caught in, but to watch them flashing from the sky, under whatever shelter you can find. She will show you how to decipher letters and words so that you can learn the stories of other children, their small hands in the fur of the creatures that walk beside them. Once she dissolved a tiny square of paper in her mouth, ate breakfast at dawn in the diner, scented with the seductive oils of the friolator. She saw the towers spring up and down like accordions. The birds in the trees outside the library chattered excitedly, and she understood them and may divine you too, if you allow her. Miss Ludy's eyes are the blue of the hyacinths she brought in one day, setting the vase on her oak table. Gaze into her eyes, that unfathomable blue, the color of the sea under a shimmering dome of sky. You've never seen a blue like that before. So I want to read two more. Is that okay?
Yeah.
David Harris. Okay. So I'm going to read one called La Liberté, and La Liberté is it references this French franc, and on the French it's a half franc piece, and it has Lady Liberty on the front of it, and she's sowing wheat seeds in the wind, seeds of freedom. I thought we were going to be steadfast, that I would revolve in the silver palette of your radiance, your flame so disconcerting that I startled each time you entered a room. This, the irresistible glow of madness, of a turmoil so prodigious it broke beyond your exquisite sack of skin, of blood, of bone, of nerve. I know I'm the crazy one, you whispered to your sister. I accept that I'm the crazy one. You overdosed at 15, nearly died, this act becoming part of the mythology of your family. We toast to my craziness, my verge of death, at every holiday. I was drawn to the seduction like a silent canoe on a glass-faced river, unaware of the flood rushing beneath its surface. How you hated women. Hate them still, in the mirror. In California, they wrapped your body in strips of cloth while flutes played, in the Japanese tradition of loving bondage. They painted you, tied you to your knees, then released you cloth by cloth. You were tie-dyed. You were their iris. Come on over the dam. Just let your canoe slide. Let it slide. Let the river swallow it. Dive away as your canoe descends, a long open dive into the boiling water at the toe of the dam. A dive with a salute, toes pointed, fingers pointed, hands touching toes. We called it a suicide, an everlasting dive. The technique was timing to make the entry as painless as possible. Bodies knifing into the water, smooth as a tanto knife through tres leches cake. Um, and the girl who had once uh, tried to commit suicide, and it became the family myth. The narrator is urging her to go ahead over the canoe into the boiling water at the dam is a possibility. Dive away as your canoe descends, a long open dive, into the boiling water at the toe of the dam, a dive with a salute, toes pointed, fingers pointed, hands touching toes. We called it the suicide, an everlasting dive. The technique was to make the entry as painless as possible, bodies knifing into the water, smooth as a tanto knife, through tres leches cake. Deep, the water boiling below, the bubbles white like the original milk. Slice through, roll in those rocks, roll and tumble like the jewel that you are, as we long for our mothers, longing, longing. The day I left you, I sent you a message. Go to the red gate while the storm gathers. There on the ground, purified by pink salt, hand extracted and mined, burned in salt lamps. This salt, 700 million years old, pink from trace minerals. This coin, rinsed in salt water under an April sun, rubbed warm by my thumbs, scented with Tunisian amber, wrapped in purple velvet cut from the dress I wore. Find the corn there. Liberté, égalité, sororité. Go in haste to the red gate, on the deer trails, across the railroad bed that runs no more. Drop to your knees beneath the gate. Find the scented coin flashing in the sun. La Liberté, with her cap worn by freed slaves in Rome. Free yourself. Hate me, hate the gift, love me. Treasure the coin in your dark and glittering garret. Build your canoe. Let the patient cedars bend. Drop the coin in your pocket. Pay the ferryman with this silver coin that you can neither throw away nor spend. And I'm going to thank you. I'm going to end with a poem about facing, as we all have faced, or perhaps will face, a diagnosis of a loved one. This is called Deeds of the Air. I lost my way, forgot how to chew, to swallow, to digest. My belly filled with the wayward glances of people on the train, tracks to Arizona, to Mexico, to points south and west. If she couldn't eat, I couldn't eat either, though I'd brought okra from the Indian store, sliced into rounds, skilleted in hot oil with a grind of salt, a hiss of vinegar. When hungry, I have always eaten words. When hungry, I swallow water. When hungry, I listen for the deeds of the air. I have lost my way to the skillets, frying pans, counters wiped clean. I have lost my way to 6 o'clock, when we toasted to the news, made our way to the kitchen, sunset flaring among the evergreens. The morning doves cooed their soft, grieving comfort. They promised her wheat toast and butter, walked hallways in her gown with faded patterns of color. So relieved now, but why these tears? Why this disconsolation? We have no food, the Gazan woman says. We don't want to eat, to endure in this dust and rubble. We cannot find the reason. There is no way around. I will eat what is given, or I will cease to open my mouth, to say, to sing, to agree, to speak my dissent, my praise, what is riven. The voice of the distance, voice of the green, the voice of the violet, heard but not seen. Thank you all. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your attentive listening. I appreciate you all. Looking forward to the rest of the poets. And thank you, Harris, for organizing.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, CD. Thank you for dealing with the opening glitches. Hopefully things will move smoothly from the rest of the evening. Our next featured reader is also well known to the region and nationally. Susan Donnelly's newest collection is the Maureen Papers and Other Poems. She's the author of Capture the Flag, Transit, Eve Names the Animals, and 6 chapbooks. She has current work in Main Street Rag, Poetry Ireland Review, and Steve Ratner's The Red Letter online series. She teaches Zoom poetry classes in Arlington, Mass. I give you Susan Donnelly.
Thank you, Harris. I assume people can hear me, I hope.
Yep.
Yes? Okay, good.
You
And
could
thank
you
you,
could be a
CD. What
little
a
bit
beautiful,
louder, Susan. You could be a little
speak
bit
a little
louder. We
louder.
want to hear every word.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you.
I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay, good. Um, Thank you, CD. That was gorgeous. So we haven't talked for a while. I've known CD for years, but love your work. I thought of trying to describe the basic themes of this reading, but I decided that it will come as I go from poem to poem. But mainly, it seems to have the tone of someone in our times. I'll let you figure out what that means. My first poem is All God's Children Need Signs. Today I'm starting to tidy things because action of some kind usually helps. I pull the coverlets back to air the bed first, as per my mother's instructions. And what do I see but the pair of yellow household gloves, latex, non-slip, reusable, I've been looking for everywhere. There they lie, on the fitted sheet, flattened, rubber fingers curved in a gesture of praying maybe on my behalf, or just waving a silent message. We've been here all along, you see, beneath you, bearing all your tosses and turns. We knew you'd find us eventually, on just such a morning. This next poem is called A Morning Person, and I'm talking about myself in the third person. It is me, but I'm talking about she. I also am quoting from Basho, the famous Japanese haiku poet, his famous poem about Kyoto, which goes, Though I'm in Kyoto, when the cuckoo sings, I long for Kyoto. I love that poem, and I'm quoting it in a different order as I say the rest of the poem. A morning person. It must be because she is one, most awake at the start of day, that so often now over coffee she will set the cup down to wipe her eyes, at a line in a memoir maybe, or a poem read for the 100th time, when the cuckoo sings, I long for Kyoto. A photo may cause it, of a child whom everyone will remember forever, or a survivor somewhere standing on rubble. Yet breakfast tears are not always sadness. Often the words she reads are so full of joy she looks up from the book to think beyond them, past the outside scene where a squirrel cavorts, where a neighbor has just stepped onto a porch, though I'm in Kyoto. I'm going to read 2 or 3 poems quite specifically about local, just a number of poems about place, and I'm mentioning specific places in Boston and other places. First of all, I should say, my mother, the bed maker referred to in the earlier poem, was one of 9 children. And so I had many uncles and aunts and gazillion cousins and so forth. And my mom's dad was, whom we all call Papa, was the pater familias, and he was very loving and very warm man. He was a lawyer in Boston. And so the poem is called Dropping In on Papa. But the scene is me, say, in early college years, dropping in on him at his office on Milk Street. Dropping in on Papa. What had he on his schedule that day that he so courteously left to come forward from his desk and hold me close? He took me to the Parker House for lunch. We sat in the high-ceilinged dining room with its fine clatter of china, bending waiters, ladies in big hats. Then we went to Bailey's, where he bought me chocolates. I'm going out now with my lovely granddaughter. He nods to Miss O'Day, with him for 30 years, who was too prostrate to attend his funeral. She hurries off to cancel, rearrange. On our way back to Milk Street, Papa handed me small fortune, a check for $25. The memory now so clear and somehow blue, it lets me see exactly what I bought with it. A Liberty blouse, you had to have one then, in a print of violets with a round collar. One of my younger brothers died of cancer in 2023 after 2 years of very brave and cheerful and dogged working with that problem. Very matter of fact in a way, too. His name was Tim. So this next poem is actually a found poem, and it comes from a number of emails he wrote about a particular trip, a visit one day to the whole medical area of Boston. So it's another section of Boston here. Tim reports from the medical area. First appointment at the Brigham was at 8 a.m. Then a short walk to Dana-Farber on Brookline Avenue. After those, I walked to 221 Longwood, hoping they might take me early. No luck. Maybe I'll visit Susan. I have 4 hours. Or Jane. Neither sister was at home. So I head south, past Harvard Medical, down Huntington to noon Mass at the Mission Church. I didn't leave that last appointment at 221 Longwood till 7 p.m. It was a dark walk along Avenue Louis Pasteur to my car. 2 young lovers kissing on the sidewalk reminded me of Mom and Dad. 221 is the old lying-in hospital where so many of us started this insane life. Somehow that last line in one of the emails was like a giveaway of the whole thing that's we struggled and addressed so bravely and directly in terms of detail. This is later in the story of Tim, my visiting him in a hospital, in one of the hospitals in Boston. I'm addressing it to him here. I don't know why I have to explain to people that read poetry which person I'm writing in, but whatever. The view from the 10th floor. The view from the 10th floor is undoubtedly wonderful, and I don't want to see it. On my visit to the cardiovascular unit, where you tell me the doctors explained, we cut out just a small piece of your heart. And I say, that sounds like a country western. So we sing it and laugh. Where leaving, I pass those windows again I don't want to look out of, that I know your bed faces away from. Despite the fine panoramas that undoubtedly provide of our city, our lives, the avenues, colleges, steeples, 3-deckers, stadiums, and Eastwood, a corner of ocean. One more elegiac poem, again, very local, and this is very recent. A very dear women friend of mine died after a very brief illness within the last month or so. We used to meet for lunch at a little restaurant in North Cambridge called the Greek Corner. The Greek Corner. It has been and will now forever be the small cream and maroon painted spot where I'd see her waiting, that eager smile so pleased that we'd at last pinned down a lunch date, despite my puttings off, my not answering phones. We'd stammer with so much to say, words jamming like commuters at a turnstile. But once inside and settled at a table, we'd get to calmer talk, pick up the memorized menus, ordering always egg lemon soup, grape leaves, and spinach pie. The last time we were there, only 6 weeks ago. She sat with the window light behind her, spooning up her must-have rice pudding, a silhouette. I couldn't quite see her face. Next time I thought, we'll choose another table. That's for Nancy Boy now, my friend. So having been in New England and Boston, remembering people I love and thinking about these things, I realized that some of the sadness that we're all feeling is not just about our immediate neighborhoods, but about our country. This poem is called Less Lethal. It was early in this new Trump administration when there were a number of protests and things. It takes place in LA, and there were a number of people protesting the early ICE attacks on undocumented immigrants. And I read that the police there were using what they call less lethal crowd dispersing things, like mace and other kinds of things like that. And I was thinking, well, as I say at the beginning of the poem, this is a coup that has happened, and it's not being admitted. And many of us know that, and it's not being admitted. And we see things that are still not admitted to be seen. We've seen them, though. Okay, this is called Less Lethal. Where was I in my life before the coup the newspapers won't admit? My trustworthy eyes watch a young woman being shot point blank last night in LA by a less lethal something as she's walking home. Past curfew? Okay, but we don't do that here, do we? She's black, I'm guessing, like the heroine racing to her side. Oh, fuck. Phone shot, crazy slant. You're okay, I can help you. Who fumbles, calls out to the cops, stay back. As the victim, the lawbreaker, the fallen one starts to cry, saying over and over, I live here. I live here. I have some of my people from my class here tonight. And this is a little sonnet dealing with the same issue of our country and how we face this as writers or readers or just a speaker citizen. It's called I Give Poetry Writing Assignments to My Class in January 2025. It's a sonnet. I was teaching them about sonnets. First, you ought to write what keeps you warm, despite the headlines on these chilling days in which the whole republic's being razed and every safety vilified as harm. I've often found some comfort in a form, I know, so try the sonnet's ways. Its sturdy certainty through any maze might give directions to what's left of home. I watch you set out with your usual zeal, searching your hearts, following each rule, then realize how you warm me when I teach. That a sonnet is itself a kind of school, where rhyme and meter bring us what we feel, when love in prose is sometimes hard to speak. Mm. My niece Julie teaches third graders in a little school in northern Vermont. And she invited me a couple of times to speak to them about poetry and so forth. So I did that one time. And it was kind of funny in a way because I asked them to, on one of the topics they could write them, the many topics you could be if you were writing poetry, might be about pets. And I asked whether any of them had any pets. And they immediately began saying, oh, yes, I have 2 cows, 4 sheep. So I'd kind of forgotten that I was talking to people in the country. But anyway, one little boy answered in the following way. This poem is called 2 Dogs. I have 2 dogs, said the 8-year-old, one alive and one dead. And I think, yes, that sounds right. Remembering a grown-up I knew, who spoke just that way about his put-to-sleep lab. As today a friend tells me, once again, how her old dog runs ahead of her still, a lot more easily now, through the woods of the reservation. I'm going to lighten things up a little with 2 more poems at the end that are about music. And this, as they say in the poetry classes, workshops, really happened. The poem is called Bagpiper on Teal Street. Teal Street is a little side street that I live on in Arlington. And I looked out one day, and the poem describes it, but a young man on his own, just walking down. You don't walk down the street with a bagpipe. It's not the usual thing, if you know what I mean. Bagpiper on Teal Street. No kilt or other get-up, no occasion but Tuesday afternoon that I can guess. As down the sidewalk come the screech and the twang of pipes, played by a young man in jeans and t-shirt, whose steps can't help become a march, swarmed as they are with dirge or celebration. By a porch he stops and checks a strap, oblivious to a curious passing car, resettles the pipes against his arm, then walks on out of sight to war, parade, or funeral, unexplained, beyond his music's hue and cry, its solitary, low, presiding hum. In this new poem, the title of this new poem sort of tells the whole thing in a way. But I'll go ahead and read the rest of it too, of course. On starting the car to the final movement of Bach's first keyboard concerto, after making it on empty to Junior's automotive. This must be what Allegro's for. An avenue of relief and jubilance, a life refilled, technicolored with orange cones, blinking traffic lights, shoppers, hard hats, cyclists, where everyone around you seems to know, as surely he did also, that prolific maker of children and chorales, you're on the road again. And what is more, this road can take you anywhere. Thank you. It's a little
Thank you,
gloves flying across the screen. It's terrific.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That was an excellent series, and we're moving right along, recapturing the evening. Our third featured poet tonight is Peter. I hope I don't mispronounce your name. Grandbois. Grandbois is the author of 16 books, the most recent of which is Story of a Pilgrim, published by Tiger Bark Press, 2026. He's poetry editor at Boulevard and teaches at Denison University in Ohio. And he has an online website, which he can tell you what it is himself, because unfortunately is very faint in my notes here. Anyway, please welcome Peter Grandbois.
Thank you, Harris. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Harris, for inviting me and for the introduction. Thank you to Susan and to CD. Those were lovely poems. That was a real pleasure and treat to hear. So I'll be reading, from this new book, Story of a Pilgrim. It's coming out actually in 10 days, so it's not quite out yet. And we'll just have at it. I'll start with the title poem, Story of a Pilgrim. Like many stories, this begins with night, with body as ghost and ceiling fan as stranger. It begins with the haunting of sheets and the scratching of the shapeless thing inside, from which there's no escape. And so you stack pillows on one side and then the other. You kick and claw at memory, wandering like a lost child, like a breath beside you in the dark. Eyes open to the faint light falling through the window, exposing the requiem of cracks. When to cease the struggle and accept the quiet riddle of silence. And when to wake, as if, like many stories, this begins with night. And many of my poems, I just follow the kind of the language and the sound, which I'll talk about later. But this next one starts with a morning walk, which that can also be an inspiration for a poem, and a caterpillar that just crossed my path. And as I waited for it to cross my path, I started thinking about the poem. It's called "What Persistent Creature." There is only this hollow tree shaped from fear, this night without end, where I meet you in a dream, the way this caterpillar crosses my path again. This ravening woods that waxes and wanes, like the history of a feigned sorrow we continue to sing. Blood is sometimes the only thing we carry, beyond the leaf's language, rumors of touch, beyond the singed light, murmurs of hands, shaping silence into the vain dark blue of butterfly wings, opening and opening. Thank you. I don't usually write political poems. I'm not sure there's a political poem, but the next two might be a little bit. I guess they might be inspired by some of Susan's there. Current events and so on. And this one starts with, one time as it's delving into YouTube, and sometimes we delve a little too far and seeing a protester shot in the video, and that the shock of that and seeing that murder inspired this poem. It's called Don't Tell Me I'm Dead. Don't tell me I'm dead. Don't remove me from myself or tell me to cut my hair or let it fall to the ground after. Don't pull me from this panicked parentheses or tell me to put on sunscreen or to watch my skin blister and burn. Don't push me from another mouth or tell me to sleep beneath a burned out moon or set out through wide open plains. I know my lines are supposed to sit silent and also be pleasing to the ear, and that poetry should count its syllables the way Hollywood counts women over 40. But here's the thing. I looked into the eyes of the dying Black Lives Matters protester last night, and I bought everything I need to keep the economy going, and I give every day to the great God Apple, and I rode the drone straight into the homes of children in the desert, and this is no island, and there is no way for this poem to end except in death. And nothing is so low as to be nothing. And of course, the end brings us back to the beginning, where I am waking and we are waking. My brothers and sisters are waking, and the death I'm talking of is not the one you think. Another one, maybe inspired by current events as well, I suppose. I'll believe you when. I'll believe you when the discredited gods of America go back to sleep and the indentured moon wanders out the window. But there they sit, staring deep into a dusk that never wanes, old men on the porch in their squandered rockers, tottering back and forth to no music but the supernova of capitalist crickets imploding under its own weight, shadows folding to a singularity. The peasants have joined hands. They circle the hole. Watch now. Soon they will dip their palms, bring water to trembling lips. This next poem is a prose poem that really comes from a dream. So I guess I'll leave it at that and see. I think a lot of my writing often starts it starts with a dream. It starts when I wake up. You take what you can. What I'm trying to say is that long ago I walked into a field. What I mean is that long ago I had a choice. Or rather, somewhere in the middle of my life, I was lost. And by lost, I mean I walked into a field. I guess what I'm getting at is that sometimes touch is better than walking, but sometimes walking is all we have. And so we enter a field and all the trees are bowing and crows like ghosts tear at the lucid sky. And we can only be so fierce, so we steal away from the one body we have. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes I have these dreams where I'm back in the field and I'm not walking anymore because I found my body and there are no crows to tear at the sky, or rather I am the crow tearing through cave dark night, and I can't see my body because everything is so black and my feathers so black. So I just fly, but it feels like I'm not flying, more like I'm floating in all that darkness. And then I wake. I can no longer choose night, no longer think about the moon and the way it turns one into the other, or the fact that soon enough the day will be a ruin. Can you hear me now? Can you understand? What I'm trying to explain is why when we walk together, when you and I walk together and I see a bird, my first instinct is to pick up a stone. While we're on the subject of birds, this is, I think, a poem. I think this one may be the next one. Well, no, just this one, I guess, where I do often try to follow the language, follow the sounds, and see where the poem leads me. I also have a lot of poems that start with the word sometimes in the title. So this poem is called Sometimes I Have to. Sometimes I have to bury the birds in my head or the emptiness in my hands. Other times I abstain from the field. Did I say abstain? I meant abandon from the hollow-boned field, birds in an uproar over what's real. Did I say birds? I meant words wandering the disowned fields, multiplying like days set down in snow, making of our shields a bodied armor or bodied mirror. I meant making of our bodies a yield to the full-throated winter, my bone-caged heart not a goodbye, but a thread of stone snaking through the dead leaves. I meant waking through the griefs. I meant I leaf, I think, I pine, and what's buried in me is another ring. And I think I will close here with just one more. This is a poem. I have a few dogs. Unfortunately, all the dogs have passed away now. I have a couple cats still. This dog, German Shepherd dog, love dearly, and this is a little bit about him. It's called The Light is Different After. The light is different after. The murmur of voices riven from the earth where my shovel digs beneath the sycamore, and my dog shoves his nose into the hole as if he could scent the tangled roots and echoes, and I stop my shovel from cutting through because he paws the dirt with such ferocity that I'm sure he's discovered something I can't see, something I didn't want to know. And I nudge him away with my knee because I also know he won't stop until he breaks a nail like he did the last time when he bled all over the house, because we are all breaking, and because the door is opening, and because what we leave behind sounds an awful lot like this. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Peter. Another nice series for the evening. Our next feature uh, will be Carla Schwartz. Her poems have appeared in Rattle, One Art, and other journals, and her chapbook, Science of Marriage. And learn more at https carlapoet.com, or on all social media. And Carla Schwartz received the 2023 New England Poetry Club E. Cummings Prize. And I give you Carla Schwartz.
Hello, and thank you, Harris, for the intro and for inviting me and everybody else. And thank you, everybody else, for your wonderful poems. And I am going to read you some poems tonight. And I will start now with a poem from my book, Mother, One More Thing. And I write a lot about food and mother. And this is one of those poems. This is called In Defense of Peaches. My mother tied her socks to the peach tree in front of her house. I'm guessing she took sweaty ones off her feet one day, or specially donned old ones and hung them and an old shirt to scare away squirrels and rabbits, maybe after reading about it somewhere, better than fox urine for sure. The socks still hang on the tree, larva lollipops. None of us has thought to press nose to cloth and inhale. That was her last wish, to go outside. Let whatever of mom still imbues remain there and hang year-round like her clay bells. The other day, under my peach tree, there were 4 hard ones shaken down and chewed as best a green stone can be. Must have been a squirrel with a bad memory, taking a bite of one and a next, leaving the unfinished to ferment. Maybe I should nestle shoes into the crook of my peach tree to fend off the wildlife. Maybe my mother's climbing shoes will do. Maybe this year I will be lucky in peaches. And this next poem is also a fruit poem. It's in my book. This is my latest book, Signs of Marriage. And it's called Raspberries, and it's a pandemic poem. As a man and a woman meet in the afternoon, safely distanced across the raspberry patch, they pick and taste, melt berry to tongue, lean in and stretch to reach a laden branch some distance into the heart of the stand. As they pick, they move round and round the berries, a berry dance. You know how it is with raspberries. You must circle more than once to find what you've missed the first go round. They speak not of the heaviness of the years lost between them, begun around some other patch of fruit, not of their diaspora, not their chance reunion. No, hell no. Raspberries, only raspberries. I tell you, these two, they swallow the drupelets, ignore the scratches. Between fingers, they pinch the flavor. And this next poem is in Signs of Marriage, and it's relevant to today, yesterday, because it is there's a reference in here to the marathon bombers, Boston Marathon bombers. And I refer to a poem by Taha Mohammed called Revenge. And this poem is called Contemplating Humanity While Swimming. After a mile, I stop paddling and drift. I strap an orange swim buoy around my waist, then don the goggles, gloves, and fins. Like a mink on a rock, I slip off my board. I begin arm over arm on my back, towing the board behind. The wind tickles the water's surface. In the cool air, I can't help wonder if there's snow on top of Mount Washington. Allen's admonishment gnaws at me. You can't write a poem that considers the humanity of a terrorist, a poem that prays for a sinner like what Taha does in Revenge. I think about Tsarnaev as a teen, said to have been gregarious, funny. He probably watched cartoons as a boy. Then, as a young man, his brother whispered, "Bomb." In cartoons, an explosion singes a finger, a wall crumbles, but the hero walks away unscathed. To calm my stitch, I take deep breaths. I'm on a beautiful lake surrounded by mountains. I flip over and swim crawl. I want to better understand lapses in judgment, including my own. I think about what it means to be human. And thank you. And this next poem is in my book, Intimacy with the Wind, which a lot of these poems are inspired by living in a solar-powered houseboat, but not this poem. This poem is inspired by the book, the novella by Carson McCullers called The Ballad of the Sad Cafe, and I refer to some of the characters in the book in this poem. And I also refer to the invasive sweet garlic mustard, which is out right now. If you look around, you'll find it. The Sad Ballad of the Garlic Mustard. I must have identified more with Miss Amelia and her hard ways turned soft by love than with Cousin Lyman. I felt uncomfortable about Lyman. He popped up like the garlic mustard that emerged in my side yard this April. The roots are tender and white and radishy. I intended to jettison them, but then read you can cook them. I would have to soak the roots to remove the mud. Miss Amelia might have used the leaves in a beer. She would bring pitchers out and pour glasses all around while Lyman stayed on. I could open a pop-up cafe with all this mustard, sauteed in eggs, a mustard pesto, roots cooked into sauce. Then I read the young ones have more cyanide than the second years do. Bad things can go good. I stare out at all the mustard, bags full in my future. I wonder if I can tackle all this alone, if I might one day come to love my yard, if sauteing and invasive is sweet revenge. And this next poem, also in Intimacy with the Wind, is about trees, and it's called The Mistake of Cutting Down. I was mistaken. I didn't care for the pine trees that bordered my yard, the needle pissers, the sap criers, the sun sponges, the temples of shade. I was mistaken that cutting down trees would be nothing more than an even exchange of dollars for work. I was mistaken. My neighbor didn't care when he said so. Mistaken, I understood. My neighbor understood what I didn't know. I didn't understand. I was mistaken. I would not quiver with each thud and thunder. Mistaken, my backyard was not a spring, rather a sponge that would not recoil from the trauma of heavy machines. I accepted a sparse cover of seed and loam for the future promise of recovered lawn. Was that a mistake too? I was mistaken not to consider the birds. Mistaken I hated squirrels. I was mistaken. A man with ropes on a limb was exciting. The felling of trees, not violent. And now I'm going to read to you a few newer poems. This one is called Dear Mother. Help me make sense of this, these horrors. I know you tear up at the tyranny to relive your nightmares from Hitler's Germany. It tears at me, the old man at the desk, tearing up every page he can, tearing up every page he can find until he starts at the money, but stops himself, realizing his face now imprinted on the notes. Teach me again the algebra of resistance, how we can solve for X from Y when relationships are inconstant. Introduce new variables with irrational coefficients. Oh, could that be you to specify the inverse of morass? This problem, I'm afraid, might stymie even a Holocaust survivor. How do we shout when shouting's forbidden? How do we speak out when tongues are knotted or chained? Tell me where to hide, where to find safety. Is it in the soil? Is it in your dust where I might grow something I can still eat? And this next poem is a golden shovel after the poem on the Statue of Liberty by Emma Lazarus. And the words of her poem I'm taking are, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And those form the last words of every line of this poem. In a country, the old Colossus weeps. In a country that doesn't want to give, in a country that lives by me, 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 in a country that aims to destroy your civil happiness, foment fear. You're so tired of the country that aims to destroy your human rights, that does such a piss poor job of protecting the us in US, your bully country, until every crowd, each huddled voice, suppressed under rain, so that the masses of the disenfranchised quashed, yearning for at least a similitude of a chance to thrive in a peaceful land, to breathe clean air, to speak their minds, could be free. And I think I'll read two more poems. And this one is another fruit poem. It's called To Make a Pie. First, just imagine the blueberries, 1,000 blue pearls that slide into your vessel as you play your fingers down the bush like harp strings. Oh, the slipping of berry to hand. Now imagine where those berries reside. On which island? Will you swim the miles there or kayak? And how the wind might thwart or aid your journey. Now step into your boat and go. I made that pie, that blueberry pie, with wind. The wind I fought to overcome, to reach the abandoned island with sweat that soaked my shirt that humid day, with joy of stepping off the boat submerged to my pants. The wind I fought to glean. I made that pie with the willpower not to eat all of the berries before climbing back into the boat to return home. How difficult can this pie be? Too few berries? Fill the rest of the crust with any fruit you can cull from your freezer. Add cinnamon, cornstarch, a drop or two of lemon for sour. Then bake and taste the wind, the fruits of your labor. And I think I'll finish with a poem that I wrote for Charles Coe, who was a dear friend of mine and also a dear friend of a lot of people in this room. Our collective grief, this is a hyphen for Charles Coe. The problem with being friend to all is when you die, when we learn through the offhand insta-scroll of your being gone, such an oxymoron, of your isn't-ness over and over, as you were so much more than just a friend to one, we can't grieve alone. Climb from the wreckage, you urged in one poem about grief. Oh, Charles, there is no wreckage of you, only a wreckage of us, a landscape we must learn to stagger up from and move through, a landscape from which your humor, your wisdom, the warm soup of you was swallowed in an instant, as if by a sinkhole. What can we do with our tears but sing, cry out, then one day find, as you would have, the perfect punchline to a joke about how much we miss you? Reading your poems, our breath on the window. Thank you. I think I will finish there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carla. That was a nice series of poems, and especially moving. Your very last poem. Thank you very much for that.